You'll probably know that Apple's working on a brand new iMac, something to replace this 27-inch model that was last updated in 2020 and still features a 2012 design with Intel chips. And while a brand new 27-inch redesigned iMac sounds awesome, and I am super excited for it, I am also quite worried. I'll talk about both what excites me and also what worries me, but first I want to address my concerns. The first one being gaming. You're probably wondering, why am I worried about gaming on a Mac when gaming was never an option in the first place? Well, that's not actually true. My 14-inch MacBook Pro with the M1 Max chip could play all Mac games that I've tried at native resolution, maxed out settings, and with an average of 60 frames per second, or even higher in some cases. So I'm definitely not worried about the performance, as we already know that this iMac would be the best Mac for gaming, by far, thanks to what we would have under the hood. If you're a developer and you're trying to make a well-optimized Mac game, you need to first make full use of Metal, which is a proprietary graphics API that only Apple uses, and second, you need to make sure that your game runs natively on Apple Silicon. In fact, out of all the games that I've tried, the only one that did both was World of Warcraft, and the performance in this was just incredible. I was getting almost 100 frames per second in native resolution and with all the settings maxed out. Besides World of Warcraft, it is almost impossible finding a game that is optimized this well. StarCraft, for example, uses Metal but does not run natively, so while we do get some pretty impressive performance, it is far from what it could be. Not even to mention that the biggest games out there, like Warzone, Apex Legends, Rocket League and more, are not even supported on macOS at all. I feel like out of 100 games, only about 10 would work on macOS, and out of those 10, only 3 would support Metal, out of which only 1 would run natively. And it's a shame because Apple clearly has the hardware now, but they're making it very difficult for developers to make games. If Apple introduced support for Vulkan or DirectX, or even just a newer version of OpenGL, this would allow developers to port their games so much easier. But let's be honest, they're never going to abandon Metal. So I think that the only real solution to this is either for Apple to buy a ton of game development studios or for Apple to offer some ridiculous cash bonuses for anyone who brings their games to the Mac. Otherwise, we'll simply just be spinning in circles. As gamers won't be buying Macs for gaming as there are no games, and developers won't be making games for Macs as there are not enough gamers. Second thing that I'm worried about is Apple's design approach. Here, I'm not necessarily worried about this iMac being ugly. Instead, I'm worried about Apple's future when it comes to designing new products. For almost the entirety of Apple's history, design has been at the forefront of every new product, such as the 12-inch MacBook, the Magic Mouse, the iPhone 6, the Retina iMac, the 2013 Mac Pro, and many, many more. All of which had a striking design, but at the expense of functionality. The 12-inch MacBook was crazy thin, but also very slow, and it had a terrible keyboard. The Magic Mouse was probably the best designed mouse ever, but it was also the most uncomfortable one that I've used. And it also charged like this. The iPhone 6, although it was the thinnest iPhone ever, it was also the easiest one to bend and had a horrible battery life. The Retina iMac had really bad cooling and heavily throttled because of it, while the 2013 Mac Pro was not really that upgradable. However, as of more recent, Apple has actually changed their entire design philosophy to focus on functionality first, which is not necessarily a bad thing. The bad thing, however, is that Apple's now purposely trying to give these new products a controversial design to stand out from the competition and get attention. For example, the new MacBooks have a notch. But if Apple really wanted to, they could have easily had a notchless design by removing the LED indicator, as this is already present in software, and integrating the front camera into a dedicated keyboard key, like Honor has done it. Same thing with the iPhone, where Apple could have easily replaced Face ID with an in-display fingerprint reader, same as on almost all Android phones out there. This would have removed the notch. The upcoming iPhone 14 is set to feature a double punch-hole camera cutout in the form of a pill shape and a circle, which could have easily been integrated into a larger pill. However, since Apple wanted to be unique and not look like they are copying Huawei, they decided not to. And it's the same with the iMac. This new 27-inch iMac could technically have a bezel-less design to resemble the Pro Display XDR, but it won't. Apple will most likely make it identical to the 24-inch model with a large chin, in order for it to look iconic and blend in with the smaller model. Which is a real shame, because instead of Apple trying to design their best possible products, they're now simply trying to make them look unique, even if that is not necessarily in a good way. The third reason why I'm a bit worried here is the price. The current 27-inch model starts from $1,800, which is an outstanding deal when you consider that you're also getting that stunning 5K display. And considering that the LG ultrafine 5K display, which uses the exact same panel as the 27-inch iMac, sells for $1,300, you're technically only paying $500 for the iMac's internals. However, since this new display is set to add 120Hz ProMotion and Mini LED technology, as well as increase its overall size, this combined with the insanely powerful M1 Pro and M1 Max chips, I do believe that this new iMac Pro will see a drastic increase in price. The 16-inch MacBook Pro starts from $2,500, and I see this new iMac Pro costing anywhere between $2,500 to $2,800 for the baseline M1 Pro model. If you bump it to the M1 Max, the price could very easily surpass $4,000. And sure, it will be the best iMac ever released. But for those who simply want an M1 Pro or M1 Max iMac, you'll have to spend way more than you expected. The only solution that I can see for this would be Apple offering a more affordable version of the iMac Pro that does not have the Mini LED 120Hz ProMotion display. Although, judging by all the recent leaks, they won't. However, not all things are worrying, as there are a couple of reasons that do make me super excited for this new iMac. The first one being that display. Even though that 120Hz refresh rate won't matter as much for content creators, it will make the day-to-day usage feel so much faster. And if you do decide to game on the new iMac, it will make a massive difference. Aside from this, it is also said to be a mini LED panel with more local dimming zones than Apple's Pro Display XDR. Not only that, but there's a really good chance that this display won't be a 32-inch panel, but a smaller 30-inch, which means that the dimming zones on the iMac would be significantly smaller than on the Pro Display XDR, resulting in less blooming. There are rumors that Apple will be updating the Pro Display XDR too, and realistically, they have to, as otherwise, once this new iMac gets released, it would make no sense for the Pro Display XDR to exist. And the second reason why I'm excited for this new iMac is the sheer amount of performance. Since this will be a desktop computer and battery life or thermals won't be a concern, Apple will be able to push the M1 Pro and the M1 Max chips even further. Just going from the 14-inch to the 16-inch MacBook Pro, we could see as much as a 30% improvement in tasks such as 8K raw video rendering, which I know is something very specific, but the fact that we saw such a big improvement is mind-blowing. So imagine the improvement that we could see going from the 16-inch MacBook Pro to an iMac. I predict that it could be as much as 60%. This means that if you don't want to spend the extra money for the M1 Max model, you could literally just get a baseline that might be very close in performance to a maxed out 16-inch MacBook Pro with the exact same chip. But regardless, there's no denying that the iMac Pro would be a true powerhouse for those who truly need it. I'm super excited for it, and I do hope that you get why I am still a bit concerned. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think of this upcoming 27-inch iMac Pro or 30-inch. And definitely subscribe if you want to see more Leaks Rumors episodes like this one. I'm Daniel, this has been Zen of Tech, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Zen of Tech, signing out. Cheers.